My wife created 20 new marriage rules, so I added just one rule that ended her game. Her control system collapsed instantly. Update 1. The list was waiting for me on the kitchen counter when I got home from work, typed up, laminated, and placed next to my dinner plate. 20 new marriage rules were written across the top in bold letters. At first I thought it was some kind of joke, but the serious look on her face as she stood, arms crossed by the refrigerator, told me everything I needed to know. "What's this?" I asked, picking up the laminated sheet. "I think our marriage needs more structure," she replied, her tone leaving no room for discussion. "These rules will help us both know where we stand." I scanned through the list, my blood pressure rising with each absurd demand. Rule number 1. I needed to share my location at all times. Rule number 4. All purchases over $50 required her approval. Rule number 12. I had to text her hourly updates when I went out with friends. The list went on, each rule more controlling than the last. We'd been married for 7 years, but the last 6 months had seen a gradual shift in our relationship. It started with small things, comments about my friends, suggestions about how I should dress, questions about where exactly I'd been during the day. But this was something else entirely. "You can't be serious," I said, placing the list back on the counter. "I'm completely serious," she replied. "My friend's husband follows a similar set of guidelines and they've never been happier." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I barely recognized the woman standing before me. The person I'd married was supportive, kind, someone who valued my independence as much as I valued hers. This person wanted to monitor my bank account, screen my calls, and dictate who I could spend time with. "I need time to think about this," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. "There's nothing to think about," she countered. "These rules go into effect immediately." I noticed her phone light up with a message. She quickly turned it over, but not before I caught a glimpse of the group chat she had with her friends. I'd seen enough to know she was updating them on her progress with me. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about our marriage at all. This was about control, about showing off to her friends how she had her husband wrapped around her finger. All those lunch dates with her new friends from the country club. All those women with their perfect Instagram marriages. It was changing her, or perhaps revealing who she truly was. I didn't argue further. Instead I calmly ate dinner while she watched me expectantly, waiting for me to break, to plead, to negotiate. But I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. My mind was already working on something else entirely. Not how to follow her rules, but how to end this game once and for all. As I finished my meal, I smiled at her, a smile that clearly confused her. She expected resistance, tears, anger, anything but calm confidence. She didn't know me as well as she thought. I wasn't going to fight her 20 rules with 20 counter rules. I didn't need 20. I only needed 1. The next morning, I decided to study the list more carefully. Each rule was more absurd than the last. Rule 6 demanded I share all passwords to my accounts. Rule 9 required her approval before I made plans with anyone. Rule 15 stated I needed to check in with a photo if I was going to be late from work. Rule 17 limited my gym time to 1 hour, 3 times a week, always when she could verify my whereabouts. These weren't marriage rules. This was a prison sentence with conjugal visits. I watched her getting ready for her weekly brunch with her friends, applying makeup with meticulous precision. Her phone buzzed constantly. I casually picked it up to hand it to her, making sure to glimpse the screen. The group chat was active. "Can't wait to hear how he took the rules." One message read, "My husband would never stand for it." "You're so lucky," said another. So that was it. I was becoming a trophy in her social circle. The trained husband who jumped through hoops on command. The thought made me sick. "Your phone," I said, handing it to her with a neutral expression. "Thanks," she replied, then paused, studying my face. "Have you thought more about our new arrangement?" "Still processing," I answered calmly. 20 rules is a lot to take in. She seemed pleased by my apparent submission. "You'll see. This will make our marriage stronger." After she left, I sat down and analyzed the situation strategically. This wasn't just about control, it was about public perception. She wanted to show her friends she could domesticate her husband completely. The question was, when had our equal partnership become this power struggle? I recalled how 6 months ago she'd started spending time with the wives of her boss and his business partners. Women who boasted about controlling their husband's every move. Women who measured their worth by how thoroughly they could dictate their marriages. My wife had always been independent and respectful of boundaries. Now she was becoming someone else entirely. I decided to play along temporarily. That evening, I acted contemplative, but not confrontational. I let her believe I was considering her demands. Meanwhile, I observed her closely. She texted updates to her friends throughout dinner. "He's coming around." I caught her typing. No real resistance. Easier than I thought. The casual disrespect stung, but I maintained my composure. This wasn't about ego. It was about reclaiming our relationship from whatever toxic influence had poisoned it. Over the next 2 days, I watched as she started enforcing small rules. She reminded me to share my location. She questioned a $60 purchase I'd made. She called twice when I was having lunch with a colleague. Each time I responded with minimal resistance, enough to seem like myself, but not enough to trigger a confrontation. All the while, I was formulating my response. I knew that arguing against each individual rule would bog me down in endless negotiations where she held all the power. I needed something simpler, something elegant, something that would cut through the entire charade at once. On the third night, as we sat down for dinner, she placed a rule violation notepad beside my plate. Another new addition to track my infractions. "Do you have something to say?" she asked, clearly expecting me to finally break down and beg for compromise. "Actually," I said, meeting her gaze steadily, "I've been thinking about your rules quite a bit, and I've decided to add one of my own." Her eyebrows shot up with surprise, then narrowed into a suspicious glare. "Your rule?" she asked, as if the concept was completely foreign. "That wasn't part of the plan. Every relationship needs balance," I replied calmly, setting down my fork. "You've had time to think about what you want from this marriage. I've had time to consider what I want too." I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes, trying to determine if fighting this would cause a bigger scene than she wanted. After all, her whole strategy depended on maintaining the illusion that I was willingly accepting her control. "Fine," she said finally, crossing her arms. "What's your one rule?" Now you can watch the second part by pressing share and more.